Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn Commerce with Namita. I am Namita Mane. In today's video, let us discuss some MCQs on the topic Sale of Goods Act 1930. So let's start the session. First question is, the Sale of Goods Act 1930 came into force on which date? So options are 1st April 1930, option B 1st July 1930, option C 1st June 1930 or option D 1st January 1930. So the correct answer is option B 1st July 1930. The Sale of Goods Act 1930 came into force, means it was implemented from 1st July 1930. Next question. The Sale of Goods Act 1930 is not applicable to. Options are actionable claims, option B sale of movable property, option C sale of immovable property or option D both A and C. So the correct answer is option C, sale of immovable property. This act is not applicable to sale of immovable property, means the property which cannot be moved from one place to another, it is called as immovable property. So this act is not applicable on the property which are not movable. So option C is the correct answer. Let's move to the next question. The Sale of Goods Act 1930 is an act to dash the law relating to the sale of goods. So options are option A define and amend, option B define or amend, option C consolidate and amend, option D consolidate, define and amend. So the correct answer is option A define and amend. Sale of Goods Act 1930 is an act to define and amend the law which are relating to the sale of goods. So option A is the correct answer, define and amend. Next question, question number 4. The Sale of Goods Act 1930 is applicable to. Options are whole of India, option B whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir, option C only B, option D both A and B. So this act is applicable to whole of India. So correct answer is option A. The Sale of Goods Act 1930 is applicable to whole of India. Next question, question number 5. Section 2 subsection 1 of Sale of Goods Act define buyer as. So what is the definition according to this act? So options are a person who buys or agrees to buy goods. Option B person who buys and agrees to buy. Option C person who buys goods. Option D person who agrees to buy goods. So section 2 subsection 1 of this act define buyer as. So which is the correct definition as per this act defines the buyer? So correct answer is option A. So section 2 subsection 1 of Sale of Goods Act defines buyer as a person who buys or agrees to buy goods. So option A is the correct answer. Why we are not taking option B? Though the words are same, person who buys and agrees to buy. So here and or. So as per this section 2 subsection 1, the correct definition is the person who buys or agrees to buy the goods. Next question, question number 6. Section 2 subsection 13 of Sale of Goods Act defines seller as. So what is the correct definition of seller as per this act? So options are person who buys or agrees, the person who sells or agrees to sell goods. Option B, person who sell and agrees to buy goods. Option C, person who sell goods. Option D, person who agrees to sell goods. So let's check the correct answer. The correct answer is option A, a person who sells or agrees to sell goods is the seller. So section 2 subsection 13 of Sale of Goods Act 1930 defined seller as person who sells or agrees to sell goods. So this is the correct answer for this question. Next question, question number 7. Before enactment of Sale of Goods Act, the provision regarding sale of goods were contained in. So options are Indian Partnership Act 1932, option B Indian Contract Act 1972, option C Negotiable Instrument Act Negotiable Instrument Act 1881, option D Transfer of Property Act 1882. So before enactment of Sale of Goods Act, means this Sale of Goods Act was introduced on 1st July 1930. The provision relating to sale of goods were contained in Indian Contract Act 1872. So the correct answer is option B. So before this act was enactment, the law relating to sale of goods were part of Indian Contract Act 1872. Question number 8. Which of the following cannot be included in the term goods defined under section 2 subsection 7 of Sale of Goods Act 1930? So options are option A stock, option B actionable claims and money, option C growing crops, option D shares. So growing crops means the crops which are attached to land and which are growing. So which of these followings are not included in the definition of goods under section 2 subsection 7 of Sale of Goods Act? So the correct answer is option B. Actionable claims and money are not included in the definition of goods as per section 2 subsection 7. So option B is the correct answer. Next question, question number 9. Which of the following is included in the term goods defined under section 2 subsection 7 of the Sale of Goods Act 1930? Options are stock, option B growing crops, option C grass, or option D all of the above. So the correct answer is all of the above. So stock, growing crop, shares are included in the term goods. So option D is the correct answer. Okay, so next question, let's move to the next question. Question number 10. Goods which are in existing at the time of contract of sale is called as. Options are future goods, option B specific goods, option C existing goods, or option D current goods. So correct answer is option C existing goods. So existing goods means the goods which are in existing at the time of contract of sale is called as existing goods. Next question, question number 11. Which of the following is not a form of delivery? Options are option A actual delivery, option B constructive delivery, option C symbolic delivery, option D fast delivery. So the correct answer is option D. Fast delivery is not a form of delivery. Actual delivery, constructive delivery, symbolic delivery are the form of delivery, but option D, fast delivery, is not a form of delivery. Next question. Which of the following is our form of delivery? Options are actual delivery, option B constructive delivery, option C symbolic delivery, or option D all of the above. So the correct answer is option D, all of the above. So actual delivery, constructive delivery and symbolic delivery are the form of delivery. Next question, question number 13. When the goods are physically delivered to the buyer is known as. Options are actual delivery, option B constructive delivery, option C symbolic delivery, or option D all of the above. So when goods are physically delivered to the buyer is known as actual delivery. So correct answer is option A, actual delivery. Next question, question number 14. Dash form of delivery takes place when a person in possession of the goods belonging to the seller acknowledge to the buyer that he holds the goods on buyer's behalf. So which is this form of delivery? So options are symbolic delivery, option B constructive delivery, option C actual delivery, or none of this. So the correct answer is constructive delivery. Constructive delivery takes place when a person in possession of goods belonging to the seller acknowledge to the buyer that he holds the goods on buyer's behalf. So option B is the correct answer. Next question, question number 15. A warranty is stipulation of or stipulation dash. Options are essential to the main purpose of contract, option B essential to the primary part of contract, option C collateral to the main purpose of contract, option D none of this. So option C is the correct answer. A warranty is stipulation which is collateral to the main purpose of contract. So option C is the correct answer. Question number 16. A stipulation which is essential to the main purpose of contract is called as. Options are guarantee, option B condition, option C warranty, option D terms and condition. So the correct answer is condition. A condition is a stipulation which is essential to the main purpose of contract, whereas warranty is collateral to the main purpose of contract. Condition is essential to the main purpose of contract. So correct answer is option B, condition. Next question, question number 17. Question number 17. In case of sale of goods doctrine, caveat emptor means. Options are let the buyer be aware, option C let the buyer be afraid, option C both A and B, option D none of this. So the correct answer is let the buyer be aware. Option A is the correct answer. Question number 18. The property in the goods means possession of goods, ownership of goods, option C both A and B, or option D none of this. So property in goods means ownership of the goods. So correct answer is option B. The property in the goods means ownership of goods. Next question. As per section 45 subsection 1 of the Sale of Goods Act 1930, the seller of goods is deemed to be an unpaid seller when options are: option A, the whole of price has not been paid or tendered and seller has an immediate right of action for the price. Option B, when a bill of exchange or other negotiable instrument has been received as conditional payment and the condition on which it was received has not been fulfilled by reason of dishonor of instrument or otherwise. Option C is both A and B. Option D, none of this. So the correct answer is option C, both A and B. So as per section 45 subsection 1, the Sale of Goods Act 1930, the seller of goods is deemed to be unpaid seller. So option A and B is the correct answer. Unpaid seller means when the buyer does not make the payment to the seller, so that seller is called as unpaid seller. So for this question, the option A and option B is the correct answer. Next question. In which of the following condition the right of stoppage in transit is exercised by unpaid seller? Options are: goods are in transit, the buyer has become insolvent. Option C, the seller must be unpaid. Option D, all of the above. So the correct answer is all of the above. So when goods are in transit, the buyer has become insolvent and the seller is unpaid, then the unpaid seller can exercise this following rights, means the rights of stoppage. Next question. In which of the following condition the right of lien is exercised by unpaid seller? Options are: where goods have been sold without any stipulation of credit, where goods have been sold on credit but the terms of credit has expired. Option C, where the buyer becomes insolvent, or option D is all of the above. So correct answer is all of the above. So in this condition, the unpaid seller can exercise the right of lien. Next question. In which of the following condition the right of resale is exercised by unpaid seller? Options are: where the goods are of perishable nature, where the property in goods has not passed to the buyer. Option C, both A and B, or option D, none of this. So the correct answer for this question is option B. Option C, both A and B. So when the goods are in perishable nature and where the property in goods has not passed to the buyer, the unpaid seller can exercise the right of resale. Next question. If the seller commits a breach of contract means breaking the contract, the buyer gets the following rights against the seller. Options are: damage of non-delivery, suit for breach of warranty. Option C, suit for interest, or option D, all of the above. So the correct answer for this question is all of the above. If the seller commits a breach of contract, the buyer gets these following rights against the seller. Thank you. I hope you have understood all the MCQs with the answer. Please subscribe my YouTube channel, like and share the video.